If you study Yamaha's journey in India, it is very interesting. The brand has done some very peculiar things, very strange things, which are also very exciting. The journey started with, of course, the RD350, that iconic, beautiful machine, and it then went on to give us the likes of the RX100 and the 135, and then it just went southwards in a big way with motorcycles like the Phaser and the Libero and all those mundane things. And also, there was a slew of scooters which are not very pleasing. But now, over the past few years, Yamaha has had that upsurge again with the introduction of the FZ nameplate with the 16, and then it has just kept rising with the introduction of also the R15, which is almost like a cult machine in India, and this is also trying to do exactly the same thing. If you look at the Indian market, I've of course spoken about the Suzuki Bergman, but there is another product which is actually a head-on rival to this one, the Yamaha Aerox. It is by a brand called Aprilia, and Aprilia has not really done too well in the Indian market, but that scooter is actually a good competition to this one. It is called the SXR 160. There is also a smaller displacement model, the 125, but we are going to discount that because it goes absolutely locking horns against the Aerox. And in this department, in this category, these are the only two scooters that you get in India. And this one makes a very, very strong case for itself on the design part alone. I mean, just look at this. It is a very athletic, very sporty design. In fact, if you look at the front end, the entire headlamp casing, all the other elements, they make it look like it belongs in a motorcycle, that design element. And just to be able to get that sort of a treatment in a scooter is phenomenal. And then, of course, you look at the overall product design. There is a central tunnel sort of a thing over here in the middle that runs properly, seamlessly, and it all nicely tapers off into the rear. If there is one element that I don't really like or I wish was better executed, is the design of the exhaust. Right now, it just looks like it's a bit too bulky for the overall design and does not really merge very well. So apart from that, overall the execution, the quality also is phenomenal. So Yamaha always does very good designs and good quality jobs of the fitments, and this is no exception. When you sit on the scooter and start examining the product closely, you notice that all the control buttons, the plastic panels, everything is properly high grade. The only gripe that I have is the shuttle line or the gap in the shuttle line that you have when you open the flap to give you the access to the fuel tank. There is a noticeable amount of gap when you shut it, and in rains, it is definitely going to catch a lot of water, and that can lead to a little bit of rusting problem as well. The other thing which is noticeable is the fact that it has a huge amount of storage under the seat. You can easily fit your full face helmet and then a few more items. And then there is a small storage compartment on the left which also will allow you to charge your phone. The flap of that can be a little irksome because it just kind of falls down and it is not lockable, so you'll have to be very, very careful. Now, when it comes to the riding geometry or the seating geometry, it's somewhere in the middle. Not the sportiest of the lot, you actually sit pretty upright, and that's not a bad thing at all. The seat is also very accommodating, but for tallish riders, it is going to be a little bit of a problem because when you are maneuvering this bike at slow speeds, not high speeds at all, because high speeds you kind of lean in. At slow speeds, you turn, and if you're wearing gloves, you might just foul with the knee, and that can be a little tricky. The other thing which is not ideal is the fact that the left knee fouls with the plastic and it just kind of opens the storage compartment flap. And because the ride quality is not too great, which we'll come to later, you're always kind of bouncing around, and invariably your knee is going to hit that portion and it is going to come undone. So again, something that Yamaha should have thought about. Another issue that I have is with the rear view mirrors. I wish they were a little further apart and the mirrors themselves could have been slightly bigger. Right now, the view back is not really great, and when you sit straight and you're riding up, almost half the mirror is kind of occupied by your shoulders, and that again restricts the visibility at the back in a big way. So big mirrors and a little further apart, that would have solved the purpose in a very nice manner. But the main highlight of the Aerox is the engine gearbox combo and also the way it handles. Now, the engine is of course a lift from the R15. The power rating is slightly lower, but for a scooter, it is very, very good. And it is commendable what Yamaha has done with the engine, because we are used to the engine being mated to a manual gearbox. Now to see this kind of a performance with a CVT is phenomenal. You don't really feel that, there should have been steps, but the way the engine progresses, the linearity of it is superb, and it also builds pace in a very, very rapid way. And with CVTs, you get that flexibility that whenever you get on the throttle, it kind of instantly reacts to your inputs. Of course, some people might just absolutely criticize it for the rubber band effect, but that has been going down substantially over the years, and in this one, you will not feel it at all. And the other big highlight that makes it really special is the refinement of the engine, or just the entire package generally. There is no vibration that you will feel anywhere at all. The engine runs really smooth. The gearbox itself is also extremely smooth and very progressive. And every place where you touch the scooter, you don't feel any rattle, any sort of harshness. So overall, as a riding experience, it's very refined and also extremely enjoyable. Now, this engine also gets VVA, or variable valve actuation in Yamaha speak. And yes, you do feel VVA kicking in the R15, but here I genuinely could not feel the VVA at all. But the performance of the scooter is so nice that it doesn't really matter. I'm sure there is VVA, but I just could not feel it. And especially because it runs through a CVT gearbox, it is very hard to notice. But of course, just having VVA stickered around on the scooter is a very special thing. The numbers are also good. The engine makes about 15 bhp and 14 Newton meters. So for this segment and for the kind of application that the scooter is going to be subjected to, it's pretty all right, and you can actually stretch its legs. We recorded with me, a heavyweight sort of a guy, about 110 kilometers and then we ran out of road. I'm pretty sure that with a little bit of more tarmac, you would have gone past about 115 or almost touching 120. A much lighter colleague of mine almost did about 117. So you can definitely go beyond 110, and it is happiest when it's cruising, say, between 70 and 100 kilometers per hour. So the engine performance is absolutely impressive. Now let's talk about the thing that makes the scooter really, really special. That is the way it handles. Now, when it comes to scooters, the one machine that really impressed me back in the day now, because it's been several years, was Aprilia SR150. It was launched with an absolute magnetism to it. It looked fantastic, and all of us who rode the scooter just went crazy about it. It is kind of the same with the Aerox as well. Not as sporty a seating geometry, but it actually helps because you are definitely going to be using this a lot in city confines. So this posture really is more accommodating and more friendly to you. But the handling is just top notch. And it also helps that it rides on 110/80 in the front and 140/70 rubber at the rear. Of course, these are very special tires, sticky rubber as well. So you will have to be careful because the rim size is 14 inches. There are some 14-inch tires available in the market, but not the ones that this one is riding on. These are IRC tires, a specialist manufacturer from Japan. So this one is not going to be available. You will have to be slightly careful when you're riding about. But of course, you can definitely go into the aftermarket industry and get anything that you want with a 14-inch size. But right now in this configuration, it really works because the way this thing goes around corners is absolutely phenomenal. It feels very glued to the road, and yes, the ride quality is definitely firm. We say a lot in our reviews that the ride quality is stiff. This one is not stiff. It is definitely more than that. You feel every slight undulation on the road, and it can be a good thing and a bad thing because now this scooter is going to be predominantly bought by people who are absolute mentalists. It is going to be bought by enthusiasts, those people who absolutely are devotees of such kind of performance from a scooter, not a motorcycle, but a scooter. They want practicality of a scooter, but also the performance of a motorcycle. So it's a very small niche of audiences or consumers that are going to buy the scooter. So for them, they will definitely know the kind of bargain that they have to do with the product. They will have to live with the right quality being firm and really firm. So the upside to that is the way this thing goes around corners. As I said, it just feels extremely fluid. You can actually on this scooter get your elbow out, you can point your chin into the center of the corner and just attack it properly, and it will hold its line. Just make sure that there is nothing like a bump or anything of that sort in the road surface, otherwise it will definitely kind of pitch a little bit. But at the same time, the way this thing tracks an arc around a bend is absolutely superb. One thing that I really want to stress on are the brakes. Now for this kind of performance, I really wish the braking efficiency was a lot better. It does stop, don't get me wrong, but really want the bite to be a little sharper and also the progress on the lever to be a lot more communicative. Right now, it just kind of is somewhere in the middle. A slightly sharper system would have sorted everything out. At about 1.3 lakh ex-showroom, the Aerox is also not bad value at all. If you compare it against the 125cc segment scooters, they're almost touching a lakh and some are actually going above that. So at 1.3, not too bad at all. So what really is the Yamaha Aerox? It is a somewhat practical, hugely entertaining and very well-built scooter, and the one statement that really defines it is that it is a scooter that really is almost like a motorcycle.